I was 20 minutes into my wedding dress fitting when my phone pinged with an email that would destroy everything. "Hold still, please," the seamstress murmured, pins between her lips as she adjusted the hem. I'd waited 3 months for this appointment, and tomorrow was our engagement party. Everything was finally falling into place. The ping came again, then again. My phone, vibrating insistently against the wooden chair where my regular clothes lay folded. "Sorry," I said. "Do you mind if I check that? It might be work." The seamstress nodded, sitting back on her heels as I carefully stepped off the platform in the voluminous white gown. I expected a client emergency, some last-minute brief that needed reviewing before Monday. What I got instead was an email that made my stomach drop through the floor. From Jolie Pearson to Reagan May, Vera Wolf, Sebastian Fisher, Senior Partners. Subject: Concerns about Serenity. I've struggled with whether to send this, but I can no longer stay silent. I've discovered Serenity has been systematically undermining client relationships and taking credit for others' work. More disturbingly, she's been leveraging confidential information from Reagan's business dealings for her own advancement. I've attached documentation. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, especially before your engagement celebration, Reagan. As her friend, I felt you deserved to know who you're really committing to. With deep regret, Jolie. My hands trembled so badly I nearly dropped my phone. Jolie, my best friend since law school. The woman who is supposed to be my maid of honor tomorrow. "Are you okay?" the seamstress asked, her voice sounding distant through the roaring in my ears. "I need a minute," I managed, gathering the skirts of the dress and stumbling to the dressing room. I locked the door and sank down onto the small bench, my mind racing. The accusations were absurd, completely fabricated, but they were also precisely calibrated to hit my most vulnerable points. 3 years ago, I'd been falsely accused of using confidential information in a case. I'd been cleared, but the whispers had followed me. Jolie knew that. She knew exactly how to make these lies sound plausible. With shaking fingers, I opened the attachments, doctored emails, conversations taken wildly out of context, meeting notes with timestamps altered. It was thorough, calculated character assassination. I called Reagan immediately, straight to voicemail. Then Vera, my mentor at the firm. Same result. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. I changed out of the wedding dress in a daze, apologizing to the confused seamstress, promising to reschedule. The silk slipped through my fingers like water as I hung it back on its padded hanger. Would I ever wear it now? Outside, the October air hit my face, but I barely felt it. I ordered a rideshare to Jolie's apartment, my thoughts a hurricane of confusion and betrayal. We'd had dinner together just last night. She'd raised a toast to my happiness, had smiled at me across the table, while this email sat in her drafts folder. 20 minutes later, I was pounding on her door. "Serenity." She opened it, wearing yoga pants and a surprised expression that I now recognized as completely fake. "What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be at your fitting?" I pushed past her into the apartment we'd spent countless evenings in, drinking wine and sharing secrets. Or so I'd thought. "Why?" My voice came out as a rasp. I thrust my phone at her, the email displayed. "What is this? Why would you do this to me?" Something shifted in her eyes then. The pretense fell away, and for a brief, chilling moment, I saw something I'd never noticed before. A cold calculation, a satisfaction. "Oh, you got that already." She took a sip from her coffee mug, completely unfazed. I thought it might take longer to make its way through the firm's servers. "Jolie, these are lies. You know they're lies." My voice rose, desperation clawing at my throat. "Reagan, the partners. You sent this to everyone who matters in my life." She set her mug down carefully on the coffee table. "Are they lies, though, or just truths no one has been willing to see about you?" "What are you talking about? We've been friends for 15 years. And for 15 years, I've watched you get everything handed to you." Her voice remained eerily calm. "The Westlake case should have been mine. The senior partnership track should have been mine. Reagan should have been mine. The room seemed to tilt sideways. Reagan, what does he have to do with this? Her smile then, I'll never forget it. Small, satisfied, victorious. He's already called me, you know. So confused, so hurt. Needed someone to talk to. She examined her manicured nails. I'll be there for him. I'm always there for everyone, aren't I? Reliable Jolie, the friend who never gets the spotlight. Tears burned in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall in front of her. You won't get away with this. I already have. She picked up her phone, showing me a text from Reagan. Can we meet? I don't know what to think right now. You should go, she said, walking to the door and opening it. You have an engagement party to salvage, if it's still happening. I walked out, numb with shock, her words echoing in my head. In the hallway, my phone buzzed with a call from Vera. I answered, hearing the hesitation in my mentor's voice. Serenity, we need to talk about this email. The partners are concerned. The first tear fell as the elevator doors closed, carrying me down into a nightmare I couldn't have imagined an hour ago. My life, my career, my future marriage, all of it now balanced on a knife's edge because of a woman I would have trusted with my life. And I had no idea how to fight back. I spent the night in Reagan's arms, but the distance between us stretched wider than the Atlantic. He held me mechanically, his body rigid against mine. The engagement ring on my finger felt heavier than it had yesterday, a weight pulling me down rather than lifting me up. I don't understand how she could do this, I whispered into the darkness. 15 years of friendship, and she just fabricated all of it. Reagan's silence lasted 3 heartbeats too long. The documentation looked pretty detailed. Serenity. I sat up, switching on the bedside lamp. His face was carefully neutral, but his eyes gave him away. Doubt. He was doubting me. You can't seriously believe I would do those things. My voice cracked. Reagan, you know me. He ran a hand over his face. I thought I knew Jolie too. She's been my friend almost as long as she's been yours. And that's exactly why this hurts so much. She's weaponized our friendship. She's using everything she knows about me to make these lies seem plausible. The Westlake case was cleared by ethics review. I cut him off, anger flaring hot in my chest. 3 years ago, you were there. You saw what it did to me. He sat up too, the sheets pooling around his waist. I know, I remember, but the email she attached are doctored. Reagan, look at me. I grabbed his hands. Do you honestly believe I would risk my entire career by stealing information from your company? That I would betray you like that? His hesitation was brief, but unmistakable. It cut through me like a blade. I need some air, I said, throwing back the covers and grabbing my robe. In the living room, I paced, hugging myself against the chill that seemed to have settled permanently in my bones. Our engagement party was supposed to start in 14 hours. Guests would be flying in. Reagan's parents were already at their hotel downtown. And now this. My phone lit up with a text from Vera. Meeting with senior partners, scheduled for Monday morning. Be prepared to address these allegations directly. Monday, less than 48 hours to salvage my reputation and career. I sank onto the couch, head in my hands. How do you disprove a negative? How do you fight accusations designed specifically to exploit your past vulnerabilities? Serenity. Reagan stood in the doorway, looking exhausted. I'm sorry, this is just a lot to process. For you? I laughed bitterly. My best friend just tried to destroy my life, and my fiancé is questioning whether I'm a liar and a cheat. He came to sit beside me, leaving careful space between us. I'm not questioning you. I'm trying to understand what's happening. What's happening is that Jolie wants to take everything from me, including you. I told him what she'd said about him in her apartment. His face paled. We were never, years ago before you and I met, we went on 2 dates. It was nothing. The revelation hit me like a slap. You dated Jolie, and neither of you ever told me? It wasn't dating, really. Just coffee once dinner. There was no chemistry. We agreed to be friends. Apparently she didn't get that memo, I said, my mind racing. This changes everything. Don't you see? This isn't just professional jealousy. She's been carrying this for years. Reagan looked unconvinced. That seems extreme for 2 casual dates 7 years ago. You don't know her like I do. I stood up, energy surging through me, despite my exhaustion. I need to check something. I went to my home office and dug through the bottom drawer of my desk, pulling out an old phone I'd kept as a backup. It still had all my data from 3 years ago, before I'd upgraded. I charged it, waiting impatiently for it to boot up. When it finally came to life, I scrolled through old text conversations with Jolie, particularly around the time of the Westlake case accusations. What I found made my blood run cold. You should be careful with the Westlake files. People are talking. If anyone asks about client meetings, remember you were with me on the 15th. Reagan mentioned his company might be looking at acquisition targets. You didn't hear that from me, though. Little breadcrumbs, dropped so casually I hadn't noticed at the time. Suggestions, implications, creating a paper trail that, taken out of context, could support exactly the narrative she was spinning now. This wasn't spontaneous. She'd been laying groundwork for years. I returned to the living room, where Reagan was staring blankly at his own phone. She's been planning this, I said, showing him the texts. Look at the dates. She was setting me up even back then. He read through them, his expression darkening. This is calculated. It's worse than that, I said, taking back the phone. It means she has more. She's been collecting ammunition for years, waiting for the perfect moment to use it. The engagement party, he said slowly. The partnership decision next month. I nodded, a chill running through me. The two biggest moments of my personal and professional life. My phone buzzed with a new text. Unknown number. I have information about Jolie you might find interesting. Meet me at Riverside Park, 7 a.m. tomorrow. Come alone. Ellis, Jolie's ex-boyfriend, the one she'd dated right before the Westlake case. What is it? Reagan asked, noticing my expression. I showed him the text. This could be a trap, or it could be exactly what you need. He took my hand, squeezing it gently. The first genuine connection since the email. I'm sorry I doubted you, even for a second. It wasn't enough, not yet, but it was something. A crack in the ice between us. What about the engagement party? I asked. Reagan's jaw set firmly. We're having it. We're not giving her the satisfaction of thinking she's won. I leaned against him, exhaustion and determination warring within me. I need to meet Ellis. He might be the key to understanding what we're really dealing with, and to fighting back against a betrayal I was only beginning to comprehend. Riverside Park, at dawn, was deserted, except for a few dedicated joggers and one man sitting alone on a bench overlooking the Hudson. I recognized Ellis immediately, tall, with the same sharp jawline I remembered from photos in Jolie's apartment years ago. He watched me approach, his expression unreadable. You came, he said, standing as I reached him. No handshake offered, no pleasantries exchanged. Your text didn't leave much room for debate. The lack of sleep made my voice raspier than usual. What information do you have? Ellis gestured to the bench. When we sat, he maintained a careful distance, as if proximity to Jolie's former friend might be dangerous. She did the same thing to me, he said without preamble. Different method, same result. Complete character assassination. A jogger passed, headphones in, oblivious to the quiet devastation being discussed. What happened? I asked. 3 years ago, I was up for partner at my consulting firm. Jolie and I had been dating for 8 months. He stared out at the river. She started dropping hints to colleagues that I had gambling debts, that I'd shared confidential client information with her. None of it true. The timeline clicked into place. That was right before the Westlake case accusations against me. He nodded. I lost the partnership, then my job, then my apartment. She watched it all happen, offering sympathy while twisting the knife. Why would she do that to someone she was dating? Ellis finally looked at me directly. Because I broke up with her the week before. She'd been pushing for us to move in together, and I wasn't ready. She smiled, said she understood. 3 days later, my life imploded. My stomach twisted. And you think she's doing the same to me now? I know she is. It's a pattern. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through it. I've been watching her since what happened to me, collecting evidence. There have been others. He showed me screenshots, social media posts, news articles. 3 other people in our professional circle who'd experienced sudden, inexplicable falls from grace after crossing Jolie in some way. Why are you showing me this now? I asked, suspicion creeping in. It's been 3 years. Because she's escalating. The others were practice runs. You're different. His expression hardened. She's obsessed with your life, your success, your fiancé. Reagan told me they went on a couple of dates years ago. Ellis laughed bitterly. Is that what he said? They dated for 3 months. She was in love with him. When he ended it, she was devastated, but hid it completely. I think she's been waiting for the perfect moment to reclaim what she thinks should have been hers. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Reagan had lied, or at least severely downplayed his history with Jolie. What else wasn't he telling me? I need proof, I said, standing abruptly. Not just stories. If I'm going to fight this, I need concrete evidence. That's why I contacted you. Ellis handed me a USB drive. Everything I've collected is on here, but be careful. Jolie has powerful friends, and she's very good at playing the victim. I pocketed the drive, my mind already racing with possibilities. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. His expression was grim. This won't be easy, and you should know. I tried confronting her directly once. She turned it against me so effectively, I almost believed her version myself. I left Ellis with a new number to contact me on, my thoughts churning as I headed straight to Vera's apartment. If anyone could help me navigate this professionally, it was my mentor. Vera answered the door in a silk robe, coffee already in hand. I was wondering when you'd show up. Her apartment was exactly what you'd expect from a senior partner. Tasteful, expensive, and meticulously organized. She led me to her home office without a word. The partners are taking this seriously, she said once we were seated. Jolie's accusations are specific enough to warrant investigation. They're lies, I said, leaning forward. Calculated, deliberate lies, designed to destroy me at the most vulnerable moment in my career. Vera's expression remained neutral. I believe you, but belief isn't evidence, and the firm needs to protect itself. I have evidence that Jolie has done this before. I placed the USB drive on her desk, and I have texts showing she was trying to set me up years ago. She didn't touch the drive. Be very careful, Serenity. If you make counter-accusations without ironclad proof, you'll look desperate. So I'm just supposed to let her destroy everything I've worked for? No. Vera's voice softened slightly. You're supposed to be smarter than she is. Think like the lawyer you are. I slumped back in my chair. The engagement party is tonight. Half the firm will be there. Reagan's parents. Everyone will have seen that email. Then use it. Vera leaned forward, suddenly intense. Jolie will be watching for signs of your distress. Don't give her the satisfaction. You want me to pretend everything's fine? I want you to understand your opponent. Jolie expects you to either collapse or lash out. Either reaction serves her narrative. Vera stood, walking to her window. What she doesn't expect is for you to remain composed and strategic. I considered this, remembering Ellis's warning about confronting Jolie directly. The Monday meeting with the partners will proceed as scheduled, but how you conduct yourself tonight will set the tone. My phone buzzed, a text from Reagan. My parents want to have brunch, just us. Can you meet at Bellini's at 11? Perfect. An interrogation over mimosas was exactly what I needed today. I need to go, I told Vera, standing. Thank you for seeing me. At the door, Vera caught my arm. One more thing. Be careful with Reagan. I frowned. What do you mean? Jolie's been spending a lot of time at the firm lately. With Sebastian, with the senior partners. Her expression was unreadable. And with Reagan, more than you might realize. The ground seemed to shift beneath my feet again. Are you saying, I'm saying information is power, and you don't have all of it yet? She released my arm. Watch your back, Serenity. From every direction. I left her building with my mind reeling, clutching the USB drive like a lifeline. For the first time, I understood that this wasn't just about surviving Jolie's attack. It was about uncovering how deep the betrayal really went. Bellini's was Reagan's favorite brunch spot, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs. His parents were already seated when I arrived, their posture stiff as church pews. Margaret's smile tightened when she saw me, while Robert didn't bother smiling at all. Serenity, Margaret said, rising for the obligatory air kiss. You look tired. Long night, I replied, sliding into the seat beside Reagan. His hand found mine under the table, but his grip felt perfunctory. We were just discussing the party tonight, Robert said, studying his menu with unnecessary focus. Reagan mentioned there might be some workplace complications. I shot Reagan a look. He'd told them. Of course he had. Nothing that can't be handled, I said, reaching for water to soothe my suddenly dry throat. Darling, if there are problems at your firm, perhaps postponing would be sensible. Margaret's voice dripped with concern that didn't reach her eyes. No one would think less of you. That was exactly what they wanted. A quiet cancellation, a gentle withdrawal of their son from a potentially messy situation. The Mays had built their family reputation on appearances and propriety. The party's happening, I said firmly. This situation is temporary. Robert lowered his menu. Reagan tells us a colleague has made some serious allegations. Something about misusing confidential information. Dad, Reagan warned. What? If she's going to be part of this family, we deserve to know what we're dealing with. I set down my water glass with deliberate care. What you're dealing with is a calculated attack from someone I trusted. The allegations are false. Of course, Margaret murmured, not sounding convinced at all. Though where there's smoke, Mom, Reagan interjected. I'm simply saying that perceptions matter, especially in your position, Reagan. The company board watches everything. The server arrived, saving us from the immediate tension. We ordered, and I excused myself to the restroom, needing a moment to breathe. In the elegant bathroom, I gripped the marble countertop, staring at my reflection. Dark circles shadowed my eyes. I looked exactly like what I was, a woman under siege. My phone buzzed with a text from Ellis. Check the drive yet? Focus on the folder labeled Patterns. I hadn't had time. Between Vera's warning and this brunch, I'd barely had a moment to think. When I returned to the table, Reagan was in heated whispered conversation with his parents. They fell silent as I approached. Everything okay? I asked, sliding back into my seat. Fine, Reagan said too quickly. Just discussing logistics for tonight. Our food arrived, and we ate in strained silence, punctuated by Margaret's pointed questions about the firm's investigation process and whether my position was secure. Each question felt like a tiny needle, testing for weakness. Actually, I said, setting down my fork, I've discovered Jolie has done this before, multiple times. I'm gathering evidence now. Robert's eyebrows rose. That would certainly change things. It doesn't change that the firm is investigating, Margaret countered. The damage to your reputation is exactly what Jolie wants. I finished for her. She's counting on everyone assuming guilt before innocence. Including us, Margaret asked sharply. I met her gaze directly. You tell me. The table fell silent. Reagan shifted uncomfortably beside me. I think, Robert said finally, that we should support whatever decision you and Reagan make about tonight. It wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement, but it was something. After brunch, Reagan and I walked in silence toward our apartment. The October air carried the first real bite of autumn. You didn't tell me your parents knew, I said finally. He sighed. They called this morning. Someone from the firm had already contacted my father. I stopped walking. Who? Sebastian, apparently. He's on some charity board with my dad. Sebastian. Vera had mentioned him spending time with Jolie. The connections were multiplying. A web I was only beginning to see. Reagan, I said carefully, I need to ask you something. And I need the whole truth, not the sanitized version. He tensed. Okay? Your relationship with Jolie. Ellis told me it was 3 months, not 2 casual dates. Reagan's face flushed. It wasn't serious. That's not what I asked. He ran a hand through his hair. Fine. Yes, we dated for about 3 months. It ended badly. She wanted more than I did. And you never thought this was relevant information, even after she sent that email. I didn't think it mattered. It was 7 years ago, Serenity. It matters because she's still in love with you. The words burst out louder than I intended. A passing couple glanced our way. Ellis says she's obsessed, that this is about taking back what she thinks should have been hers. Reagan's expression shifted from defensive to troubled. That can't be right. When was the last time you spoke with her? Before the email? He hesitated just a fraction too long. I don't know. Around the office, maybe. Reagan. He looked away. She called me last week, said she needed advice about a client situation. We got coffee. The betrayal felt like a physical blow. And you didn't think to mention this. It was nothing. Professional courtesy. There is nothing professional about what she's doing. I started walking again, faster now. I need to check that USB drive. Ellis said there's a pattern. Reagan caught up, grabbing my arm. Serenity, wait, I'm sorry. I should have told you everything. Yes, you should have. I pulled away. I'm fighting for my career, my reputation, and apparently my relationship too. I can't do that if I don't know what I'm really up against. Back at our apartment, I went straight to my laptop. The USB drive contained dozens of files, meticulously organized. The Patterns folder held timelines, screenshots, and documents tracking Jolie's behavior over years. One name in the files jumped out immediately: Sebastian Fisher. I clicked on the folder with his name. Inside was a series of emails between him and Jolie, dating back 2 years, friendly at first, then increasingly intimate. In the most recent exchanges, they discussed firm politics, partnership tracks, and me. She's too confident, too comfortable. The Westlake thing should have been a warning. Patience. The engagement announcement gives us perfect timing. Everything's in place. My hands shook as I scrolled through more messages. This wasn't just Jolie. It was a coordinated effort. With Sebastian, with others at the firm I'd considered allies. And based on the timestamps, it had begun right after I'd been put on the partnership track instead of Sebastian. My phone buzzed with a text from Vera. Need to see you before the party. My office, 4 p.m. Bring whatever you've found. I closed the laptop, a cold clarity settling over me. Tonight's engagement party wasn't just a social event to endure. It was a battlefield. And now, finally, I understood who my enemies really were. Vera's office was a sanctuary of order, law books perfectly aligned, not a paper out of place. She stood at her window, silhouetted against the late afternoon sun, when I arrived. Close the door, she said without turning. I did, then placed my laptop on her desk. It's worse than we thought. Sebastian is involved. They've been planning this for years. Vera finally turned, her expression grave. Show me. I opened the files Ellis had provided, watching Vera's face as she scanned through the evidence. Her composure barely flickered, but I caught the tightening around her eyes, the slight whitening of her knuckles, as she gripped the edge of her desk. This is comprehensive, she said finally. Ellis has been thorough. It's enough, isn't it? To stop the investigation, to clear my name. Vera closed the laptop. It's enough to start a war. They started it. And how do you plan to finish it? She circled her desk, leaning against it. These emails implicate Sebastian, who has been with the firm for 15 years and has connections to 3 of our biggest clients. The senior partners won't thank you for this revelation. So I'm just supposed to take the fall? Let them destroy my career to protect Sebastian's. I didn't say that. Vera's voice sharpened. I'm saying you need to be strategic. If you present this evidence now, it becomes a messy internal battle that could damage everyone involved, including you. I paced the office, frustration building. Then what do you suggest? The engagement party tonight. Everyone will be watching. Jolie and Sebastian expect you to be defensive, possibly emotional. They're counting on it. And if I'm not? A smile ghosted across Vera's face. Then you've already won the first battle. She was right, of course. Emotional outbursts would only reinforce the narrative Jolie was crafting. That I was unstable, untrustworthy. There's something else you should know, Vera said, her tone shifting. The partnership committee meets Monday after your hearing. Sebastian has been lobbying heavily against you. Of course he has. But 3 of the 5 partners are waiting to see how you handle this situation before making their decision. She held my gaze. Show them you can navigate a crisis with grace and strategic thinking, and you might still have a chance. The weight of it all, the betrayal, the calculated attack on my reputation, the precarious state of my career and relationship, suddenly felt crushing. I sank into a chair. Why didn't I see it? I whispered. All these years, I thought Jolie was my friend. I thought Sebastian was a colleague. I never saw the resentment building. Because you were focused on your work, not office politics. Vera's voice softened. It's both your greatest strength and your vulnerability. My phone buzzed with a text from Reagan. Where are you? We need to get ready soon. Go, Vera said, nodding at my phone. Prepare for tonight. Remember, they're expecting you to crumble. Don't give them the satisfaction. I stood, gathering my laptop. Thank you for believing me. This isn't about belief, Serenity. It's about evidence and strategy. She paused. And for what it's worth, I've always known you were the stronger candidate for partner. Sebastian knows it too. That's why he's resorting to this. Her words steadied me as I left the office. A new resolve forming. I wouldn't just defend myself. I would reclaim the narrative entirely. At home, Reagan was already dressed in his suit, pacing our living room. There you are, he said, relief evident in his voice. I was getting worried. I was with Vera. I set my laptop down carefully. I found evidence linking Sebastian to Jolie's plan. His eyebrows shot up. Sebastian, are you sure? Emails, texts, meeting notes. They've been coordinating this for years. I watched his face carefully. Did you know Sebastian and Jolie were close? I knew they worked together sometimes. He loosened his tie slightly. Sebastian mentioned her occasionally, but nothing that suggested this. I wanted to believe him, needed to. But doubt had taken root, and I couldn't quite shake it. I need to get ready, I said, moving toward our bedroom. He caught my arm gently. Serenity, are you sure we should go through with tonight? We could postpone, deal with this first. That's exactly what they want. I pulled away. I'm not giving them the satisfaction. In our bedroom, I unzipped the garment bag containing the dress I'd chosen weeks ago, deep emerald silk that made my eyes look almost golden. As I slipped it on, I felt like I was donning armor. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Be careful tonight. Jolie and Sebastian will both be watching for weakness. They have something planned. Ellis. I stared at the message, a chill running through me. What else could they possibly do? The damage to my professional reputation was already severe. My relationship with Reagan was strained. What more could they take? Another text arrived, this one from Zara. Just heard about the email. What the hell is going on? Are you okay? I hadn't spoken to Zara since the accusations surfaced. She was friends with both Jolie and me, carefully neutral in most situations. Her reaching out now felt significant. Not okay, but fighting back. Can you meet me at the venue early? 7:30? Her response came quickly. I'll be there. And Serenity, I think you should know Jolie's been telling people you're unstable, that Reagan's been unhappy for months. Be prepared. The final piece clicked into place. This wasn't just about my career, or even Reagan. It was about isolating me completely, professionally and personally. before delivering the final blow. I finished my makeup with steady hands, a cold clarity settling over me. Tonight wouldn't just be about appearances, it would be about turning the tables. Reagan appeared in the doorway, watching me. "You look beautiful," he said softly. I met his eyes in the mirror. "Good. Because tonight, everyone is going to see exactly who I am, and who I'm not." Whatever Jolie and Sebastian had planned for tonight, I would be ready. The time for defense was over. Now I was going on the offensive. The venue glowed with string lights and white roses, a perfect backdrop for celebration. From the outside, no one would guess the emotional minefield waiting within. I arrived early as planned, Reagan silent beside me as we walked through final preparations. "I'll check on the catering," he said, squeezing my hand before disappearing toward the kitchen. I found Zara waiting by the bar, elegant in midnight blue, concern etched across her face. "My God, Serenity," she said, embracing me. "This is insane. I've been trying to make sense of it since I heard. Join the club." I accepted the drink she offered. "How bad is it? What are people saying?" She hesitated, glancing around to ensure we were alone. "It's divided. Some people think it's completely out of character for you. Others, well, the Westlake case left lingering questions, and Jolie's been helpfully reminding everyone of those questions." "She's been strategic," Zara admitted. "Concerned comments here, sad looks there. Sebastian's been backing her up, talking about patterns of behavior they've supposedly noticed." I took a long sip of my drink. "And Reagan? What are they saying about us?" Her expression told me everything before she spoke. Jolie implied he's been unhappy, that he confided in her about problems between you two. She lowered her voice. "She told Amanda you've been controlling, that Reagan's been looking for a way out." The betrayal cut deep, even though I'd expected it. And people believe this? Some do. Others think it's suspicious timing. Zara studied my face. "What are you going to do?" Before I could answer, the first guests began arriving. Reagan reappeared at my side, his public smile firmly in place, as we greeted friends, colleagues, and family members. I felt their scrutiny like physical touch, searching glances, whispered conversations that stopped when I approached. An hour in, the room was filled with elegant dresses and tailored suits, champagne flowing freely. I'd maintained my composure through dozens of conversations, each one a careful dance around the elephant in the room. Reagan stayed close, his hand at the small of my back, but I felt the tension in his body. Then Jolie arrived. She wore white, not bridal white, but close enough to make the statement clear. Sebastian entered just behind her, his hand briefly touching her lower back, in a gesture of intimacy that confirmed everything Ellis's files had suggested. "Breathe," Zara whispered beside me. "Don't give her what she wants." Jolie made her way through the crowd, accepting hugs and kisses, playing the role of supportive friend perfectly. When she finally approached us, her smile was a masterpiece of sympathetic concern. "Serenity, Reagan," she said, embracing each of us. "I'm so glad you decided to go ahead with tonight." "Wouldn't have missed it," I replied, my voice steady, "especially since it gives me the chance to thank everyone who's shown their true colors this week." Her smile faltered slightly. "I can imagine how difficult this has been. If you need anything at all." "Actually," Reagan interrupted, his voice carrying just enough to draw attention from nearby guests, "we were hoping to speak with you privately, Jolie. And Sebastian, too, if he's available." I glanced at him, surprised. This wasn't part of our plan. "Of course," Jolie said smoothly, "though I'm not sure what Sebastian has to do with anything." "I think you do," I said quietly. "The terrace, in 5 minutes?" She nodded, her composure perfect, except for the slight tightening around her eyes. As she walked away, I turned to Reagan. "What are you doing?" "Ending this," he said firmly. "I'm tired of watching you suffer while they play games. We agreed to keep things civil tonight." That was before I saw her walk in wearing white, looking at you like she's already won. His jaw tightened. I've been too passive in all this. Not anymore. The determination in his voice should have reassured me. Instead, it triggered a warning bell. Reagan wasn't a confrontational person by nature. This sudden boldness felt rehearsed. On the terrace, the October night air carried a biting chill. Sebastian arrived first, drink in hand, his expression carefully neutral. "Quite the party," he said. "Though I'm surprised you went through with it, given the circumstances." The circumstances being the coordinated character assassination you and Jolie orchestrated. I kept my voice low, controlled. He didn't flinch. "That's a serious accusation. I have the emails, Sebastian, between you and Jolie, planning this for years." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, quickly masked. "I don't know what you think you have." "We have everything," Reagan cut in. "Every message, every meeting note. Ellis has been quite thorough." Sebastian's composure cracked. "Ellis, that unstable ex of Jolie's, you're trusting him." "We're trusting evidence," I said, "which the senior partners will see on Monday." The terrace door opened, and Jolie stepped out, her expression shifting as she registered the tension. "What's going on?" she asked, moving to stand near Sebastian. "They claim to have emails," Sebastian said tightly. "Between us, planning some conspiracy." Jolie's laugh sounded forced. "That's absurd. Sebastian and I barely know each other outside of work." "Stop lying," Reagan snapped with unexpected vehemence. "It's over, Jolie. The games, the manipulation, all of it." She stared at him, something raw and desperate flashing across her face. "Reagan, you don't understand. She's not who you think she is." "Neither are you." He stepped closer to me, his arms sliding around my waist. "We're going to the partners on Monday with everything. Your career at the firm is finished." The threat hung in the air. For a moment, I thought Jolie might crumble. Her face paled, her hands trembled slightly. Then Sebastian touched her arm, and her expression hardened. "You should check your evidence more carefully," she said coldly. "You might find it's not as conclusive as you think." "What does that mean?" I demanded. Sebastian smiled thinly. "It means Ellis isn't the only one who's been collecting information." The terrace door opened again. Vera stepped out, her expression grave. "Serenity, I need to speak with you, now." "We're in the middle of something," Reagan began. "It can't wait." Vera's voice left no room for argument. "Your office has been searched. Files are missing. Confidential client information. Security footage shows you accessing the building at 2 a.m. last night." The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. "That's impossible. I was home all night." "I was with her," Reagan insisted. Vera's gaze was piercing. "All night? You didn't leave at any point." Reagan hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but enough. "I went for a run early this morning, but Serenity was asleep." The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. The sudden boldness, the eagerness to confront Jolie and Sebastian, the careful positioning as my defender. "You set me up," I whispered, stepping away from him. "All of you." Reagan reached for me. "Serenity, no. Don't touch me." I backed away, looking between the three of them. Jolie's satisfied smirk, Sebastian's calculated neutrality, and Reagan's desperate attempt at innocence. Vera moved to my side. "We should go. Now." As she led me away, I heard Jolie's voice behind us. "I tried to warn everyone about her. Such a shame it had to come to this." The engagement party continued inside, oblivious guests laughing and celebrating a union that had just shattered beyond repair. And somewhere in that crowd, evidence had been planted that would destroy what remained of my career. Unless I could find it first. Vera pulled me into an empty conference room off the main hall, closing the door on the sounds of celebration. "Tell me you weren't at the office last night," she demanded. "I wasn't. I was home with," the words died in my throat, "with Reagan, who had apparently betrayed me in ways I was only beginning to understand. Someone accessed confidential files on the Meridian merger using your key card. They've been emailed to a personal account." Vera's voice was tight with urgency. The security footage shows someone who looks like you, but their face is never clearly visible. My mind raced. Reagan went out early this morning. He said he was running, but he was gone for nearly 2 hours. Could he have taken your key card? I closed my eyes, remembering. It's in my wallet, in my work bag, which was in our bedroom. Vera nodded grimly. They've created physical evidence to support Jolie's original accusations. It's elegant, I'll give them that. What do? We find proof it wasn't you. She checked her watch. Security keeps backup footage on a separate server. If we can get to it before they do, we need Ellis, I said, pulling out my phone. He knows how they operate. 10 minutes later, Ellis met us at the service entrance, his expression grim when I explained what had happened. They're escalating faster than I expected, he said. This isn't just about ruining your reputation anymore. This is criminal. Can you access the security footage? Vera asked. Ellis nodded. I have a friend in IT at your firm, but we need to move now, before they realize what we're doing. We slipped out of the venue, leaving behind the party that was supposed to celebrate my future. The irony wasn't lost on me. Abandoning my own engagement celebration to save what remained of my career and dignity. The firm was nearly empty on a Saturday night. Ellis's friend met us in the lobby, looking nervous but determined. The footage is already being reviewed by security, he told us, but I can get you access to the raw files before they're processed. In the security office, we huddled around a monitor, scanning through the previous night's footage. At 2:17 a.m., a figure with my build, wearing a hooded jacket, entered using my key card. The face was always angled away from cameras. There, Ellis pointed. The walk is wrong. You can see it's not your natural gait. He was right. The person moved with a slight hesitation I didn't have. Can we see where they went? I asked. The IT specialist switched camera views, following the figure to my office, then to the file room. 18 minutes later, they left carrying nothing visible. Digital files, Vera murmured. Sent by email, most likely. Check the logs, Ellis suggested. See what computer was used. The logs showed access from my terminal, using my password. How would they know my password? I asked, then answered my own question. Reagan, he's seen me log in before. The realization of his betrayal hit me again. A physical pain in my chest. I'd shared everything with him. My home, my future, my trust. Wait, the IT specialist said suddenly. Look at this. He pulled up another camera angle, one showing the elevator bank from a maintenance corridor. As the hooded figure waited for the elevator, they briefly turned, checking their surroundings. The face was partially visible for just a second, enough to confirm it wasn't me, it was Reagan. We need to download this now, Vera said urgently, and check the email logs, see exactly what was sent and where. The email logs showed files sent to an anonymous account at 2:43 a.m. The content, confidential client information from the Meridian merger, exactly the kind of breach Jolie had accused me of in her original email. It's not enough, I said, frustration building. We can prove it wasn't me, but we can't prove it was a setup rather than just Reagan acting alone. Ellis was scrolling through his phone. Maybe we can. I've been monitoring Jolie's accounts. Look at this. He showed us text exchanges between Jolie and Reagan, dating back weeks. Innocent at first, then increasingly intimate, planning meetings, discussions about the future, about me. She'll never see it coming. Trust me, this is the cleanest way out for everyone. What about Sebastian? Is he still on board? Completely. He wants the partnership as much as I want you. The final text, sent just hours before the engagement party. Everything's in place. Once the files are found, she's finished professionally. You're free. The evidence was damning, complete, and it filled me with a cold, clarifying rage. We need to go back to the party, I said, gathering the evidence we'd collected. Now, serenity, Vera cautioned. Think carefully about how you want to handle this. I'm done being careful. I'm done being their victim. I met her gaze steadily. It's time they faced consequences. Back at the venue, the party continued, oblivious to the drama unfolding. I spotted Reagan immediately, deep in conversation with Sebastian, near the bar. Jolie stood nearby, champagne in hand, laughing with a senior partner. My entrance caused a ripple of awareness. Conversations paused, heads turned. I walked directly to the center of the room, Vera and Ellis flanking me. "Reagan," I called, my voice carrying across the suddenly quieting room. "I think we need to make an announcement to our guests." He turned, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm when he saw Ellis beside me. "Serenity, what are you doing?" Telling the truth, I addressed the room at large. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to celebrate what I thought was love and partnership." The room fell completely silent. Jolie moved closer to Sebastian, her smile fading. "Instead, I've discovered what real betrayal looks like." I held up my phone, displaying the security footage. "This is footage from our firm last night. That's my fiancé." My voice caught on the word, stealing confidential information, using my credentials to frame me for exactly what Jolie accused me of in her email. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Reagan stepped forward, panic in his eyes. "Serenity, you're not thinking clearly." "I've never been clearer," I cut him off. "We also have the texts between you and Jolie. Planning all of this for weeks." Jolie pushed through the crowd, her composure cracking. "This is ridiculous. You're just trying to deflect from your own actions." "Am I?" I turned to the gathered guests. "The senior partners are here tonight. So are representatives from our biggest clients. Should we let them decide who's telling the truth?" I nodded to Ellis, who connected his phone to the venue's display system. The texts between Jolie and Reagan appeared on the large screen for everyone to see, followed by emails between Sebastian and Jolie discussing how to undermine me. The evidence was undeniable, damning, complete. Sebastian was the first to break, turning on Jolie. "You said this was foolproof, that no one would trace it back to us." "Shut up," she hissed. But it was too late. Reagan stood frozen, his face ashen, as his parents stared at him in horror. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. "Serenity, I can explain." "No," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "You don't get to explain. You don't get to speak to me at all." I turned to face the room, these people who had gathered to celebrate a union built on lies. But instead of the humiliation Jolie had planned for me, they were witnessing her downfall, and Reagan's, and Sebastian's. "The party's over," I announced, removing my engagement ring and placing it on a nearby table, in more ways than one. As I walked out, head high, I felt lighter than I had in days. The weight of betrayal remained, but something else had taken root alongside it. The certainty that I had reclaimed my truth, and with it, my power. Monday morning arrived with the crisp clarity that follows a storm. The firm's conference room, usually a place of strategy and negotiation, had been transformed into a tribunal. 5 senior partners sat along one side of the polished table, their expressions carefully neutral. Across from them, I sat alone. No Vera beside me, no allies, just me, a stack of evidence, and the truth. "Ms. Harper," the managing partner began, "we've reviewed the material you submitted yesterday, and the incident at your engagement party has certainly raised questions about the original allegations against you." I nodded, keeping my expression composed, despite the churning in my stomach. "I appreciate the opportunity to present my side." "Before we continue," he said, glancing at his colleagues, "you should know that Jolie Pearson submitted her resignation this morning. Sebastian Fisher has requested a leave of absence. A small victory, but not enough. Not yet." "And the investigation into my alleged misconduct?" The partners exchanged glances. "That's why we're here." The door opened, and Vera entered. Her timing perfect as always. She took the seat beside me without explanation. "I believe," she said calmly, "that you'll find the security footage and email logs I provided conclusively prove that Serenity was not responsible for the data breach. In fact, they prove a deliberate attempt to frame her. We've seen the evidence, the managing partner acknowledged. What concerns us is the public nature of how this situation was handled. Of course, not the betrayal or the conspiracy, but the fact that I'd exposed it publicly. Image above integrity, the unwritten rule of corporate law. With respect, I said, leaning forward, I didn't create the public nature of this situation. Jolie's original email was sent to the entire senior partnership. My reputation was attacked publicly. My response was proportional. Nevertheless, another partner interjected, clients expect discretion. The Meridian merger team has expressed concerns about continuing with our firm, given these dramatics. Vera cleared her throat. Actually, I spoke with Meridian's CEO this morning. They're requesting Serenity remain as lead counsel. They were impressed by her handling of the situation. Surprise rippled across the partners' faces. I kept mine carefully neutral, though this was news to me as well. The partnership vote is scheduled for Friday, the managing partner said, after a moment. Given these developments, we'll need to reassess the candidates. I'm withdrawing my name, I said. The statement landed like a stone in still water. Even Vera looked startled. Serenity, she murmured. Think carefully. I have. I met each partner's gaze in turn. I've spent years believing partnership at this firm was the ultimate measure of success. Recent events have clarified my priorities. If this is about the investigation, one partner began. It's about integrity, I cut in. Mine and this firm's. You were ready to believe the worst of me based on accusations without evidence. That speaks volumes about the culture here. I stood, gathering my materials. I'll complete the Meridian merger, as promised. After that, I'll be tendering my resignation. The silence that followed me out of the conference room felt like victory. Vera caught up to me at the elevator. That was either the bravest or stupidest career move I've ever witnessed. Possibly both, I admitted. You know they were going to clear you. Probably offer you partnership to avoid a lawsuit. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. I stepped inside, holding the door. I don't want a partnership offered out of fear or obligation, and I'm not interested in lawsuits. Then what do you want? The question hung between us as I considered my answer. 3 days ago, I would have said partnership, marriage to Reagan, the life I'd carefully planned. Now those plans lay in ruins. Yet I felt strangely liberated. To rebuild on my own terms, I said finally. Vera's expression softened. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice. And when you're ready, I'd like to talk about some possibilities. Possibilities? I've been considering starting my own practice, smaller, more selective, focused on clients who value integrity as much as results. She smiled slightly. I could use a partner with your particular combination of skill and backbone. The elevator doors began to close. I held them open a moment longer. I'll think about it. In my office, I found a small package on my desk. No note, no return address. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten list of names and dates. Ellis's handwriting. The flash drive contained recordings, conversations between Jolie and various people she'd manipulated over the years, including one from 3 years ago, discussing how to frame me for the Westlake case breach. I sat back, a strange calm settling over me. This was power, not the kind that crushed others, but the kind that protected truth. I could destroy what remained of Jolie's career with this, ensure she never practiced law again. Instead, I locked it in my desk drawer. Some weapons are more powerful unfired, held in reserve as protection rather than wielded for revenge. My phone buzzed with a text from Reagan. Please talk to me. I can explain everything. I deleted it without responding. Some betrayals move beyond explanation. Another text arrived, this one from Zara. Drinks tonight? No agenda, just support. I smiled slightly. Yes. Could use a friend right now. Her response came quickly. You've always had more than you realized. 7 p.m. at Marlowe's? As I typed my reply, Ellis called. Did you get the package? I did, thank you. What will you do with it? I considered the question carefully. Keep it safe. Use it only if necessary. Not going for the kill shot? He sounded surprised. Revenge would be satisfying, I admitted, but I'd rather focus on rebuilding than retribution. After we hung up, I stood at my office window, looking out at the city spread before me. 3 days ago, my world had imploded. My fiancé, my best friend, my carefully constructed future, all revealed as illusions. Yet here I stood, still breathing, still fighting, already envisioning new possibilities. My phone buzzed again. Vera. Partnership meeting just ended. They're scrambling. 3 clients have called asking specifically for you. Your position is stronger than you realize. I smiled at that. She was right, but not in the way she meant. My strength wasn't in leverage or negotiation tactics. It was in finally seeing clearly both the betrayal and the opportunity it created. The engagement ring Reagan had given me sat in my desk drawer, next to Ellis's flash drive. 2 symbols of paths not taken. I closed the drawer firmly. Some people spend their lives looking backward, nursing grievances and plotting revenge. Others move forward, carrying their scars as armor rather than anchors. I chose the latter, not because I'd forgotten the betrayal, but because I refused to let it define me. The woman who had received Jolie's email days ago would have crumbled under the weight of such deception. The woman I'd become would use it as foundation stones for something stronger, more authentic, something that was entirely mine.